Malcolm Bennett is the aesthete in Outrage.
Oh, God. Not you lot already. What is it with you people? Don't you ever rest? I mean, I suppose you want me to talk about art and everything now, don't you? Oh, I don't know, sports fans. It's a funny old game, isn't it? I mean, you're either good at it or you're not. Because of this, ever since the year dot, in fact, art has been revered by society. For instance, before the invention of the camera, the only way to get a mugshot of the one you love was to get some bloke to paint it for you. Up, 1, 2, down, 1, 2, and now the other sock. Anyway, I'm not here to deliver some danged fancy lecture about the history of art. All I'm saying is that art became something you pay for. It acquired a value outside of the aesthetic or sentimental fields. But then, in 1915, all that changed forever. Well, nearly. You see, when Christian Zara set up the Dadaist movements, the whole idea was to ridicule art and its value to the bourgeoisie. Do you mind, mate? You see... Oh, come on, give us a bit of room, will you? Dadaism was to rebel against traditionalism through the use of ready-mades and that. And at the time, it literally shocked and horrified the establishment. Much in the same way as the Sex Pistols did here during the 70s. You see, Dada was anti-art, and it was to have no value. Pass the towel, will you? Hey, come on, pass the towel. Looks good, doesn't it? These days, however, original Dadaist work commands a fair price in its own right. Far from bringing down the bourgeoisie, it merely proved that capitalism is so dynamic that it can absorb anything. Now, a few people don't mind, I'm going to give you breakfast.
Sad, huh? But is this really the case?
Oh,
Will an
God,
advertising
I'm a
agency
crappy
seek to use
teenage
an artist's
presenter.
work without either paying
What
or
a
consulting
plonker.
or awarding them any credit?
It's not bad looking, though, is he?
On the other hand, will the agency actually...
Okie dokie, art lovers, and let's take a look at this week's chart and straight in with the top 5. New entry at number 5 is Maternity by Picasso. Down to at number 4, it's Claude Monet's Dans la Prairie. Then no move at number 3 for Picasso's Acrobat and Young Harlequin. But up 1 at number 2, it's Sunflowers by Vincent van Gogh. And a new entry, straight in at number 1, it's that man again, Van Gogh and Irises.
The art world in the 1990s can relate not so much to the music business, but more to the stock exchange. Artworks, the stuff that an artist produces, is a euro bond. It's a commodity to be traded. And art dealers are essentially commodity brokers.
You see, the price and the value of art are two completely different things. The price is merely something you pay, whereas the value is down to the individual and his response to it. The value of art is measured by the sensations you get from it, such as shock, sadness, outrage, sentimentality, or amusement. The price of a Van Gogh, on the other hand, has little or nothing to do with the artwork itself. What you're actually paying for is the cultural baggage that comes with it. Can I have a clockwork, please? Thank you. For example, in 1971, an original Jackson Pollock cost $200,000. Today, it's $4.8 million. He's dead now. He committed suicide in a car full of paint, and in a way, this was his statement. But in turn, his work has become a statement of his times. And it's this statement that constitutes the cultural rucksack. And it's that rucksack that costs the $5 million.
Well, the value of art to me is very personal. And I think it enhances your life. If you can really come to terms with an artist's work, it can change you, it can give you another dimension, and that to me is a huge value.
I mean, I remember many years ago Yoko Ono made a piece of work, if I can remember exactly what it was. I think there were 2 pebbles, and one was valued at £1 and the other was valued at something much, much higher. And she said, you know, whatever you pay for it, you'll buy the one that you think that's the what it's worth to you.
You'd think that an installation would be the perfect example to prove the difference between the price and the value of art. After all, an installation is a temporary, site-specific piece that can't really be bought. I mean, you can't exactly take it home with you, can you? But in 1987, the artist Richard Wilson made an installation called 2050. And this was basically just a room full of oil. But the Saatchis bought this concept. It's theirs. Copyright and everything. Thus, any artwork can become a commodity and can therefore be bought.
In the end, it's very, very difficult to sell ideas only. I mean, that's where why perhaps conceptual art came to an abrupt halt, because how many blank canvases or how many empty ideas can one sell? And an artist started making objects again. The artist such as Richard Wilson has been making very, very large objects. The rooms are the objects. And that's why I believe an artist such as Richard Wilson can make works for the home, for the house. Because a house is just made up of rooms.
Look at it like this. This country wants to buy a tiny 15th century Italian painting. How much? I'll tell you. 15 million quid. Now that money could be used to build a hospital or a football ground, or it could be invested in our own artists today, young or old. But somewhere down the line, someone has to set these prices. Who?
Well, there is a sort of rule of thumb in the art world, which I think stretches right back even to the old masters, that size dictates price. So this is obviously an overruling factor.
Let's talk of more recent work by Richard Wilson, the piece that he's just finished showing at Matt's gallery, She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, which was a piece that took 3 months to make. And the whole idea of the exhibition was he was working towards it for a year. So I think we've priced the work accordingly of what a sort of income would be reasonable to a person who's trying to make his living from art would earn over a year.
So, what's the point of all this then? Well, basically, like I said earlier, the price and the value of art are two completely different things. To put it simply, if someone I loved gave me a postcard of a Picasso, then simply through sentimentality, this card would assume for me far more value than any original. And personally, I don't think that any work of art is worth 20, 30 million pounds. And I also think that if we've got that sort of money to throw around, then we should invest it in the young artists of this country. After all, surely they're far more valuable to us than some old bit of cloth with paint on it, aren't they? Right then, I've finished. If you don't mind, I'd like to get on with my own life. Yeah? And next time you call, knock.